first Letterly.
Hey there, this is John Jantsch with Duct Tape Marketing, and this is our monthly Duct Tape Marketing System and Community call. And today we are going to talk about the content foundation. Obviously, I talk a lot about content. It has become really an essential element of strategy, if you will. And so we really can't create a marketing plan. We can't create really any way that we're going to generate leads or do things online today, I think, without at least starting first with this idea of content. So that's what we're going to dive into today. I do have a couple announcements. We had a couple winners in our MVP program. They won a free lifetime membership to a tool that I heartily recommend called Process Street. So it's a really great way to document all of your processes. This is worth thousands of dollars over the life of using this tool for our winners. So this is Michael Statskowitz and Deborah Spencer, and they are going to be our winners this month. For next month, those of you that, and again, to remind you, we are rewarding people that are very active in the community, that are commenting on the forums, that are doing things, that are sharing some of their actual results of the forums that they have created themselves. We are just picking a couple folks that are doing that. Next month, it is going to be 2-month subscription to Rival IQ, which is a great competitive research tool that we use. So we'll pick a couple new winners for next month. So I'm going to move to my slides now, and then as we've done in the past, so I'll go for however long I talk today, and then we will open it up for some of you in the chat. There below the video, there's a chat screen, and we'll open that up for some amount of questions. Obviously, if you have questions as I'm talking, go ahead and feel free to lob those in. I'm going to switch to the screen sharing now, so there'll be a little bit of a delay while I get that going. And there we are. So, content foundation. We talked last month about the customer journey, and to a great extent, content is what really drives that journey. There are a lot of uses for content that are going to move people through those stages of know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. So we want to make sure that we are thinking about content in probably a much more expansive way, not okay, content means I have to have a blog. Blog means I wake up on Monday and decide what I'm going to write about. We have to really think strategically about content, just like we do other elements. I've been using for a number of years this metaphor of the publishing model. A lot of magazine publishers for years have had an editorial calendar that have looked at their entire year and said, okay, what are the major themes that we think readers will be interested in, that we should be focused on for each month? It really does a lot in terms of helping plan and creating interest on an ongoing basis. And I think that that most small businesses could benefit from that same thinking, that instead of thinking about what they might write that week, to think in terms of let's back up and think as though we were maybe going to create or write an entire book. What would the body of work of our content need to include? What are some of the foundational elements that we need to be writing about? And not just once, but writing about repeatedly, maybe on a monthly basis. What are the major themes that if we scoped out an entire year and wrote content related to those themes would benefit our business? And then finally, how can we actually put this on an editorial calendar so we are thinking not only of the themes and the timing for when we're going to write this, but maybe even the various formats. Next month, I'm actually going to talk about that idea of, okay, now we've got our content machine revved up. What's the platform to get that content out there and to amplify that content? There are a couple elements I want to talk about. This is a core one when it comes to thinking about content differently. So I want to talk about something called the total content system. So the idea behind this is that, particularly if you're getting started with your content, is to create a list of monthly, what I call landmark content themes.
You're not showing the slideshow, you're just showing the screen.
Oh, well, that's just what they're picking up. unfortunately. So I guess we're having a little technical on the slides. Let me go back to this content system, total content system. So create a list of monthly content themes, and I'm going to talk about how we do that. And then we think, and like I said, we're going to talk about next month, we're going to talk about your content delivery platform. And then we're going to think about how we map all of that content to an editorial calendar and some sort of process. So the first thing, this is an example of the monthly themes that we use for 2014. So or 2015, I guess we're in. So we practice. I certainly like to think we practice what we preach. And what we do is we use this as a way to say, okay, it's not going to be all of the content that we produce this month, but we're going to make sure we have a focus on this theme. We're going to make sure that our guest contributions are around this theme. Maybe we're going to think in terms of how we could pull together and curate some content around the web to maybe produce an ebook on this theme. And the reason for doing this, in my opinion, is that a lot of times people try to optimize for keyword phrases or themes, and they might build one page around that. But my belief is that if we're going to win a competitive term like referral marketing, for example, we're going to need 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of content that talk about that maybe are linked together, that we have an ebook, and then we have lots of reasons for people to be linking back to our site based on that term referral marketing, and not just not depending on just one page that's been highly optimized for a term. And so that's why I like this idea of having a monthly theme. Realistically, the other thing it does is it allows us to really plan more effectively as well. I have a podcast. We do guest bloggers. We are creating these ebooks. Well, if we know in advance what we're going to be doing, at least 90 days out, we have the ability to start recruiting guests and to start putting some of these things together so that we're not constantly just scrambling to accomplish that month's work. So how do you find these themes? First and foremost, I believe brainstorming, either your own business by yourself, or if you have a team of folks, you probably know some of the core themes that are related to your business. Now, there certainly are ways to check those and to expand that list, but start with brainstorming. If you have salespeople, what are the questions you obviously if you're a solopreneur are answering the sales questions yourself. What are the types of things people want to know information about? Then we could take that information, that brainstorming list, and take it to the Google Keyword Planner tool. Now, this is a free tool. You have to have an AdWords account with Google, but you don't have to actually run any AdWords. You just have to have the free account. And by virtue of that, they actually allow you to use this tool. Now, this tool was created so that people could figure out how to buy more advertising is what it amounts to. And what you'll find is that by using the Ad Planner tool, you'll actually be able to get some research on the types of things that people actually are typing into search engines. And you'll get some ideas for key phrases, or maybe the way to say those phrases, how a certain phrase is said that makes it more popular than another. So you can round out your list in many cases using that tool. Now, then we like to take that information, in my opinion, one of the greatest new tools out there is something called BuzzSumo. We like to take that information, and what you can do is you can take your terms to BuzzSumo and actually place those terms, just put all those terms in the search box there, and it'll show you the most shared content for that term. So what I like to use this for is as a way to round out, the actual content I might write about. So if I put in a search term like referral marketing, and I see the most popular 50 blog posts in the last year written on that topic, it stimulates some great ideas about not only what content I might write, but certainly also about the type of content people do share and like to share. So this can be a really great way for you to really round out your content puzzle. Now, there's a lot of other great information here. You can find out who's influential. So it might be a way for you to find guest bloggers. It can be a way for you to look at your competitors and see what their most shared content is. You can see who's sharing that, for example. So you might actually find a way to locate some people that might want to share your content or link to your content by seeing that they're sharing similar content. So there's a lot of really great uses for this, but it's a really great way to kind of build out your editorial approach. Now, we have a few forms in the Duct Tape Marketing System that you might also use. This is a very simple one that as you're doing your brainstorming and you're thinking about it, you might want to put it on a calendar. Now, if you want to take this a step further, you can take this approach and build out. This is just an Excel spreadsheet, for example, where down the left sidebar, I've said, okay, what are all the places where we could put this content or the format or how we would use it? And then across the top are all the themes themselves. And then you could start setting some goals. Okay, for June on content marketing, we want to have 2 blog posts and 2 guest blog posts and 1 podcast. So it can be a great way for you to, in a relatively short amount of time, kind of build out an entire game plan. And particularly if you want to start delegating this work, if you want to start getting other people involved in, say, writing the content for you, the best way to do it is to have some plan ahead of time. Now, I've talked primarily about this total content system, which is a great way to think about the categories of content that you want to write about, the themes that you want to write about. But we also need to think in terms of how content is used in powering the customer journey, the marketing hourglass. Because a lot of times people will think in terms of content and they simply will just say, okay, well, I need something that'll generate traffic, or I need great blog posts, or I need a viral video. But ultimately, if you want to use content to power the customer journey, you have to think in terms of your intention for different types of content. You have to create content that certainly does create awareness, so that blog post that drives traffic. But you also have to create content that is specifically, the intention is to specifically generate trust. We need content that deeply educates. So once somebody has found us, they want to know why we're better. They want to know how it might work for them. You have to create content, I believe, to keep your customers engaged, give them opportunities to actually help you produce content. And then finally, we have to have content that actually does convert somebody. So once somebody's decided that our solution is something, or at least our category of solution is something that they are looking at, we have to have ways to show them, why our particular choice is the right one for them. So some examples. Blog posts, events, and advertising are forms of content that build awareness. How-to content, reviews, testimonials, articles in third-party publications, or even guest posts. These are the types of content that help build trust. Education, ebooks, newsletters, workshops, demonstrations, FAQs. These are the types of content that you need to think in terms of creating to educate. Content that engage, so getting other people's content, getting your customers to actually produce content, getting video testimonials and case studies. This is a type of content that really can create, in some cases, can create tremendously loyal customers, but it's also a great trust building form of content as well. I like to add in here other people's content. I think in today's world, one of the best things we can do, and it's from a practical standpoint, it makes producing content easier for you, is to actually filter and aggregate other people's content. And I'm not talking about ripping off their content. I'm talking about sharing the blog posts that you read from other people, finding and collecting as sources or resources for you, 10 great blogs, for example, in your industry, and then picking out the 1 or 2 gems each week or each month for your newsletter so that you can actually create something that provides a tremendous amount of value in a very short amount of time. Same is true for social media, using other people's content so that you have something to consistently share in Facebook and on Twitter and on LinkedIn. These are all great forms of content that you need to put into your content mix. And lastly, I want to talk about content for referrals. This is an area that people don't think too much about, but we have generated significant amount of business and traffic and awareness by taking the content that we've produced already and reaching out to others to allow them to co-brand that content, to allow them to share that content. So you want to think in terms of, if you've gone to the extent of creating, say, a great ebook, you want to take that out to potential strategic partners, or at least people that have your same prospect or ideal client in mind, and you want to allow them to actually co-brand that content and share it out with their communities. Make it as easy as possible. Build a landing page for them. I mean, this is a great way for you to build your email list, for you to get traffic, and in some cases for you to get direct referrals, because that person is putting kind of their stamp, or that company is putting their stamp of approval on the content that actually goes a long way towards promoting your business. I want to end today's idea of content talking about the idea that I know a lot of companies look at, well, a content person, or that's marketing's job. And I think that content today is so significant that I've been talking about it as culture, that it's everybody's job. And that I think there are, particularly in organizations that have customer service folks, have engineers, have sales staffs, I think that there's a tremendous amount of content that goes unused and unearthed because we think of content as being marketing's job. And I think in some of those other areas, not only is content available, in some cases it may actually be better content or richer content or a different form of content than anybody in the marketing department could ever produce. So I heartily recommend that organizations conduct some sort of a content workshop internally as they're thinking about creating their content plan. Get your whole team together for 3 to 5 hours. Maybe if you haven't done this, you want to teach, here's our marketing strategy, here's our ideal client and our core message from previous sessions. Here is, or together as a team, create your content plan. So have them brainstorm. So I talked about this idea of brainstorming. Have your entire team brainstorm about the types of things that they think you need as content, the kinds of things that they are hearing people ask for, and maybe the type of content they might actually love to write and produce. I have worked with organizations over the years where they have very effectively built marketing and content assets around other people that wanted to contribute but had never been asked. In fact, I intentionally started using this idea of content as culture because in some cases it can dramatically, getting other people involved in, say, producing content can actually dramatically improve the culture at the organization, because in some cases people have a lot of knowledge that they'd like to share, but nobody's asked them to do so. So look at this as really, from a practical standpoint, it might make the job of producing content much easier, but I would suggest that it's going to make your content and your employee experience much richer as well. So a couple notes on this. If you're going to create an editorial plan and you're going to involve a lot of people in the organization, certainly somebody has to own the plan. Somebody will constantly have to be pushing content forward. You'll have to, and we're going to talk about this in our next live session, you will have to decide, what are the platforms, what are the mediums, how, if you're going to get people internally contributing, how do they contribute, what are the rules, what are the guidelines, do you need to do training? But again, content is such a significant element of marketing today, and you need to view its production really as an asset for the business. And so it will take time, it will take energy. In fact, it's probably the most time-consuming, energy-consuming aspect of marketing today. But long-term, it is probably the best investment that you can make in your marketing resources. So that's it for today in terms of the actual content. I'm going to switch back to, as soon as I can find the right button there, I'm going to switch back to me live on the video screen and jump over here and see if we've got a few questions. Okay, Brian, I love the idea of content as culture. I'm curious to hear John's experience working with organizations where creating, sharing content was a culture change and how the organization overcame those growing pains. A great point, Brian, because it's actually very common that it takes a significant change. And if you're going to have a culture change, first and foremost, it has to come from the top. I mean, it's much tougher if it is something that, you know, somebody in marketing or one of the salespeople said, "Hey, we ought to be doing this." However, one of the things I have seen is I've seen a couple things. I've seen organizations that get excited about this and they say, "We're going to make this change," and then, you know, they have one meeting about it and everybody goes back to normal. And so, if you are going to from the top make this change, you have to be serious about it. You have to put the resources into it. You have to really apply what you're talking about on an ongoing basis. Now, the flip side of that is I've actually also seen some organizations where from the top, they were pretty, especially organizations that are very sales driven. In other words, they may have a head of marketing or a CEO that really is a sales manager, that really believes that, you know, selling is the only way to get more business. And so in some of those organizations, I have actually seen some effective, I mean, they've really, you know, pushed it down, but I have actually seen some effective initiatives where people have one or two people, you know, out in the trenches have actually started just doing it on their own and proving that there's a case for this. They're starting to get results. They're starting to get inbound leads and really effectively proving that that this works, and starting on a very small scale. Nobody gets hurt. You know, they have to invest a lot of resources. And so that can be another way to do it as well. All right, not a lot of questions this week, so maybe we'll have a short call. I understand we had the slides were a little out of sync. Again, not really sure. You know, Google Plus seems to come up with a new way to confuse every time we use it. There's some things I really love about this technology, and there's some things that are a little bit frustrating when you're used to some other technologies. But I think hopefully we got the essence of this idea down, and we will catch you guys on the next one.